It is episode 12 of Wednesdays with Ward. We're with Heat head coach Troy G. Ward. New blood. You've got a lot of new players showing up here in the midpoint of the season. Coach, how's that been for you?
Well, it's been good. I mean, obviously, as we've always talked about here, it's a land of opportunity, the American Hockey League, whether players are unfortunately sometimes coming back down or players are moving up from the East Coast League, and there's been trades and there's been some movement here of late. So, you know, things are happening here in Abbotsford, and we're just adjusting as new players arrive.
So in the last week alone, we've seen Andy Bomback come up from the Trenton Titans, a guy that has some history with some of the players that has played a couple games here for your hockey club. On top of that, Blair Jones is down from Calgary, and now a familiar name and kind of a familiar face, Mike Testweed, the younger brother of JP, who played here last year. Maybe just speak to each of those guys and what they provide you.
Well, I think Andy Bomback came in a little bit of a week ago. We were on the road there. We were a little short bodies with some injuries and then some call-ups. And he'd come in, and, you know, Andy's a guy that's played some games in the American Hockey League, and we felt that based on our injuries at that time, we could put him in a position to be successful. A lot of times when guys come up from the East Coast League, they end up on fourth lines, but they're first-line guys on the coast. And we wanted to utilize him the right way, so we've been trying to do that with Andy here while he's been helping us out. And then, you know, Blair dropped down, and Jay Feaster and you know, certainly the coaching staff up there made a decision to move Blair down here to get him some games in and get his game going again, and we're working on that with Blair. I thought he had a good first weekend last weekend against Charlotte. So he's been a good addition to our team, even though it's probably short-lived. And then certainly today, that, you know, the first arrival of Mike Testweed here, we got him in a trade with Mitch Wall through the Flyers organization 2 days ago and arrived late yesterday. So, you know, he brings us some size, and obviously we know what the Testweed family stands for because we had JP, and he was a big part of our stretch drive last year and provided a lot of things. So Mike's another big body as we look to try and get a little bit bigger.
There's a lot of size. All those guys are well north of 6 feet. Andy's a little lighter, but I mean, is that something that you'd be emphasizing if you were someone calling a GM, or if you were a guy trying to mold this team and make the midseason adjustments?
Well, I think that's something that we talk about with John Weisbrod. I mean, that's mainly, you know, John and Jay are putting this thing together, and they've got to look at the big picture up above them. So there's all kinds of things that go into this thing, but certainly I think both teams right now are trying to get bigger if they can through the trade market, and that's maybe sometimes easier down here. Maybe it's sometimes easier up there, and time will tell. But certainly, you know, Mike provides us with a little bit more size and gives us some girth on the wall a little bit, and we're trying to do that with our team, and we'll let those management people make those decisions, but they usually look after both clubs pretty well.
We're in the medical room where Chris Linder calls home and gives players treatment regularly, so I suppose it'd be appropriate to check in on the captain, Quentin Lang, where he's at. Also, we saw Drew McKenzie, Dustin Sylvester, and Ryan House miss time recently as well.
Yeah, that's been unfortunate, really, during a tough stretch for us. I mean, we're tired. We've traveled a lot, and we're coming back, and then we're going right back out for 15 days here on Monday, and it's been a difficult stretch for the guys. So I think part of those injuries is just natural fatigue, but certainly we missed them. We haven't won a game since Quentin Lang last played, and it tells you what a man he is for our team and what a player he is for our team. We miss him dearly, and he's due to come back. He did practice today, full go today, so that was encouraging. The other guys, you know, Hauser's out with a little bit of an illness, so hopefully he'll be back soon, but the other two guys are banged up a little bit with some upper body injuries, and it might be some time before those guys see our lineup again, which is disappointing because I thought Drew McKenzie kind of came into his own a little bit there in the last couple of weeks, and then certainly I think Sly and Sylvester's been able to put up some goals here of late, and he's done a nice job for us.
Houston comes to town. This club has seen a lot of guys go up to Minnesota. Some have come back down. What do you make of the roster, and how much do you focus on them versus the new group that you've got to mold here now?
Well, you know, we're certainly aware of what's going on. I think them and maybe Oak City have been hit as hard as anybody, I think, in terms of losing players that were substantial for their team. So certainly them watching this are saying, boy, those poor guys in Abbotsford, I mean, they've lost a plenty of players too, both by injury and both by call-up. So I think everybody's in the same boat. You know, but we're aware of what they bring to the table, and they're going to be a good hockey team for us this weekend, and that's what we want. But really the focus has been more, Ryan, this past week just on us. Obviously we've been through a little bit of a tough stretch here in terms of the result. We've lost more than we've won, so we're just focusing on kind of getting back together again on the right page. And this has really been the first week maybe since November where we've had a full week of practice and some days off to kind of get on track. So it feels good, I think, and we're making some progress. progress.
One final technical one for you. This Houston club you played once. You played every other team in your conference more than them. Does it make it more difficult to break tape, or are you just as easily to watching them play other teams and taking note?
Well, it's been a little bit more difficult everything is kind of equal now because so many teams lost so many players during this whole stretch with the NHL and everybody having injuries. So, it's a more difficult. It's more you're still trying to figure out if they're playing, what systems are trying to do that. But the parts are all different. And they're changing week to week. I mean, there's a lot of guys up that are playing for the Wild right now that played against the Flames last night that have been on their American League team. So we look at the parts really right now. I think the systems are all pretty much in place, and the same thing goes here. It's just there's different moving parts walking in and walking out.
Tons of injuries in the NHL. We've seen lots in the American Hockey League, and we'll get you out of sickbay here before anything bad happens. You never know this time of year. It's been crazy.
It is, and this is a room we don't want to be in. So you don't make a living in this room here in this business.
All right. Thanks for your time, Coach. We'll do it again in a few weeks. Man, it's a long time between Wednesday games. We'll see you down the line.
Sounds good.